Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions, where we're critical, not cynical, of the music we listen to. I'm your host, Bryan, and we're going to finish up this week's theme of war, checking out songs with the word war in the title. Today, we're going to be revisiting the band Nothing More, who have made me cry in the past, but they have also highly energized me with the anthemic Burn the Witch. So, we're going to be diving into another track from them, and I'm hoping it's more on the energetic side than the tearjerker side. Let's dive into this. This is Nothing More's Go to War.
I don't know what you had in mind, but here we stand on opposing sides. Let's go to war. Let's go to war! We arm ourselves with the wrongs we've done, name them off one by one. Let's go to war. Let's go to war!
Very rigid.
Everything you say, everything you do, you push it in, and you cut me down, and you cut me down.
Even the way that I want to direct this is just super rigid.
Forgot who we can trust, screaming at the top of our lungs, on the grounds where we feel safe. Do we feel safe? Do we feel safe? Hush, my baby, make no sound. Maybe we can
Lots of
wait
dynamic
each
elements. This is just
other
a
out.
whirlwind.
It's a cold
Highs and lows all over the place.
Let's go to war!
These really explosive punctuating moments.
I thought that fighting with meant fighting for, but you're turning around, but you're turning around, screaming at the ones we love, like we forgot who we can trust, screaming at the top of
Okay.
our lungs.
This is starting to make a little more sense to me. Really interesting atmospheric electronic sounds. Oh, nice shift there. Nice little variation here on our final chorus. Huh. I didn't dislike it, but I liked it less as it went on. That's kind of that's kind of weird. Usually you would want your hook, your chorus. Actually, you would want your chorus to be your hook. You'd want that to be the part of the song that people remember the most. And the chorus kind of lacked that punch for me. I mean, because like I'm trying to think of other. We've listened to Jenny, God Went North, um, Fade In, Fade Out. I think that's it. The only ones we've done proper reactions to, and those are all powerful songs musically, but also powerful songs lyrically. On a live stream, we checked out Burn the Witch, and that is just, yes, that is energy in music form, especially that live performance with the drum stuff going on in the middle of it. I don't know what live stream that was, so I'm just gonna link to the Burn the Witch video right there. You guys can go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It is a phenomenal live show. I would love to have been there. Um, this this kind of lacks everything, which is, uh, I mean, I guess it's just gonna happen. A band can't consistently put out bangers. Plus, you guys are always, typically, not always, typically going to show me the best a band can do. Um, for the first few times that I check out bands, this is picked primarily, well, I'm going to wager that this was picked to fit the theme, and it's not a bad song by any means. I can definitely see why somebody would suggest it, plus it does have war in the title. Um, but I don't know that I would pick this song specifically to even go back to listen to, much less recommend someone else to listen to without having any extra criteria to it, to the recommendation. And it's because to me it feels very safe. Let's get into this. Let's talk about what happened in the song so that you guys can see where I'm coming from here, because this is a bit of a negative take on this, and I want to explain myself. And that's what this platformer is for. I tell you guys what I'm hearing and what I get out of it. Musically, this is a pretty typical modern rock band in that there's not a lot of riffage going on, but there is a lot of textural playing. The music is designed to evoke a specific atmosphere or emotion more so than to be a musical device upon itself. In that vein, I honestly can't tell you anything specific about the music. There's so few memorable elements of it. We had that palm muted kind of idea, wrong notes. Again, I'm not a singer, but that rhythm with the palm muted of pedal tone and every three notes hitting another, going up in pitch and hitting a different note to kind of produce a melodic idea if you get rid of the pedal tones and just look at the other notes as they're created, and put them in the order on like sheet music or notation or something. You'll get a melody out of that. The palm muting is a textural thing to sit around it to spice up this rather simple dotted eighth note idea going on there. Um, I think that's really the only memorable musical line in this whole thing, outside of some of the melodic ideas going on in the vocals, and that's just because the vocals are the key element. They are melodic primarily, as is true with a lot of modern bands and even modern pop acts and country and stuff. Music is just a secondary component. It's there to fill the space around the vocals because the modern audience does not want to hear just somebody singing a cappella. You got to have sound behind it. It's more of a functional thing, which is what we're getting here. There is a synergy in our verse. A very low-end rhythmic synergy that we get out of our bass, lower strings on our guitar, and a lot of tom and snare work and bass kick work out of our drums. There's not a lot of cymbals in our opening idea. And we have this ebb and flow between quiet moments where we have very sparse instrumentation, primarily just our vocal and maybe a little bit of hi-hat or a little bit of a guitar lick going on. And we have moments of this, like 4 bars of this, and then like 2 bars of this very explosive um, moment. And again, I can't really tell you what the drummer's doing or what the guitars were doing or what the bass line was. It was just bombastic. It was big. There's nothing memorable to the musicality of it. It is the emotion that's memorable, which again, I'm kind of saying this in a negative aspect, and I don't want you guys to take that away though. That's not my intention of bringing this up. It's just a very different technique of music crafting where the notes themselves are not as important as how it makes the listener feel. So the simplicity or lack of memorability of specific lines from our instruments is not a negative of the song. It's not actively trying to do that. It would be like getting mad at black metal because it doesn't sound great production wise, or because the vocalist isn't singing operatically. I think that's probably a more accurate analogy there. It's just not a part of the genre. It's not something you would typically expect from it. And so here, they're not presenting melodic music or harmonic music or chordal music, even in most of this. Uh, the musicality of it is not a focus. So for me to say that it's a negative thing that they don't do that is not approaching the song on its own grounds. I'm asking the song to meet me, and that's not fair to it. So it is something that I find very interesting, the lack of memorability in the music, but I don't want you guys to walk away and say, oh, this guy hated it, or even worse, use me as proof that the song isn't good because there's a lack of memorability. No, I don't want any of that. But I do need to point it out because I find it to be a very intriguing part. Even in a lot of music that I talk about, is highly textual. We listen to a lot of that because metal, to me, is primarily a textual genre. We do have melodic genres of metal, but there's still a lot of it that just kind of has that rule of cool, write an awesome riff. But even riffs, I think, are designed to be memorable. And I think that's kind of the big difference here. This is almost on the level of even something like post rock, maybe, which I think is a weird analogy there. But post rock kind of has riffs sometimes, but again, they're not really designed to be memorable. It's more that there's just a rhythmic component for the guitarist to play, but the intention is typically in post rock to present an emotion for you to get, absorbed by. And here it's the same thing. They're really trying to get this emotive dynamic element, dynamism, dynamic element, with these ebbs and flows, these rises and falls. It's all about the comfort of the softer sections contrasted with the punch of the larger sections, the more bombastic, dynamic components. And the musicality, again, is just secondary to that. I don't remember where I was going with this, though. Anyways, that's our verse. Our chorus is primarily chord progressions on our guitar and some bass work on our bass. Um, I'm trying to remember if there was any unique bass licks, and I think it was mostly just following the guitar. Same rhythmic patterns, primarily playing the root tone, which is a far cry from some of the wild bass ideas that were being played in Burn the Witch. I'm curious now. This was released in I gotta know now. Why is there no date on this? What is wrong with my YouTube? Oh, 2017 possibly. When was that Burn the Witch video though? Oh, there's a 10th anniversary edition from a year ago. But it came off of the Few Not Fleeting from 7 years ago, maybe? Um, So it's actually an older track, but it might have had some modifications in the 10th anniversary edition that might have been used in the. I don't know. Interesting. I mean, because here's the thing. I was thinking that maybe this track was older than that one, and it would show an evolution of our bassist, um, or maybe just the band as a whole. Not only just the bassist skill, but also the compositional side of the band on how to use the bass. Um, but it's possible also that the band softened their sound up over the years, and became more mainstream. Maybe they were a more melodic style of compositional band, or maybe the bass work was just stronger back then, and they decided to go for a more mainstream sound in recent years. I don't know now. Nothing more fans. Weigh in here. Let me know what's going on. Why Burn the Witch? Oh, I guess it's called Salem. I did not know that. Burn the Witch is the subtitle on it. Moving on though, so we have our peaks and valleys in our verse. Our chorus is just primarily chords and vocals. We do introduce more cymbal work, but it is withheld, maybe I could say. Um, it could also be the mix though. The cymbals just aren't a bright element of the production. And that's the chorus. We get into the bridge and we explore some new sounds, which I think is probably the most interesting aspect of the song. After I get past the verse, chorus idea, I really like that first verse. I do. I think it was a nice, explosive way to introduce somebody to the song. Then we get into the chorus, which I think kind of hits a little softer, and we do this. All right, where are we going now? We hit the bridge though, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see where this is going. We have new sounds coming in, and I actually called it some atmospheric electronic things. I think I said. Um, but it could also be two guitars. Our guitars double tracked the song, but there's multiple higher pitch things going on, but one of them is super quiet. I actually tried really hard to listen for it because I wanted to know if it was a second guitar or if it was a synth or something. And I'm honestly not quite sure. In fact, sometimes I even found it difficult to hear and I questioned if I had heard it at all. But I vividly remember a counterpoint to what the guitar was playing. Which it just causes me to have more questions though. Once again, why is this something that I'm questioning when I think it's an element that would improve upon what's already being played here? And granted, I say improve upon, I say that in a very subjective way. When I hear a quasi melodic component and I hear a counterpoint to that that works well against what the vocals are doing, which are also kind of counterpointy, because we do have three melodic adjacent ideas going, or lead melody adjacent ideas going on here. I'm like, yeah, we can get some three-way counterpoint in here. That is something that I really enjoy listening for in music. That's a personal bias of what I enjoy in music. So when I hear that, I'm like, okay, but it's downplayed so much to the point that I even wondered if I had heard it at all. And that's when it kind of hits me again. It feels like a very safe song. Mainstream rock audiences might enjoy that. They might not even notice it. Counterpoint, I'm talking about when I say it. But they really enjoy music without it. So it's kind of a gamble to add complexity to music. It's kind of hit and miss whether it's going to be enjoyed or not. I mean, there's a very strong chance, sadly, at least from the people I know, it's a very small area of Southern America or Southern North America. Nope, let me fix that. Southern USA, the Southern U.S. Um, so it's not a very large sample size, and it's kind of a single type of culture down here. But I could hear people saying, "Oh, they're getting all artsy fartsy." I don't know if that would be a national or global response to adding complexity to radio rock, but it could be. And so, like, I understand wanting to play it safe, but I feel like at least at that moment, they just hindered themselves. They had a good idea going and decided not to run with it, which doesn't feel like the Nothing More I Know. Um, the three tracks that we've done a full reaction to do not pull their punches in any way. I'm not going to say they're the most musically complex songs out there, but they do have a bit of complexity in them while still retaining that very palatable radio rock vibe. But going the extra mile, they really push that sound out. Um, I mean, Fade in, Fade Out is a bit more restrained. It hits hard with his lyrics, but God Went North was like a 7-minute track with quite a few sections in it, even kind of turned into a quasi-linear or linear style of writing there in the middle. Um, and explores quite a few different musical ideas, not something that would work on the radio. And maybe that's also the difference because this has a music video and God Went North doesn't. This is a single. This is designed to be played on the radio, and maybe that's why I'm just not a big fan of it. I don't think any of the, well, Jenny had a music video, and I think Jenny was, well, so did Fade and Fade, and those two were definitely simpler than God Went. Maybe this is the thing then. They write radio friendly tracks that don't push the boundaries musically, don't include heavy counterpoint, and if it does, kind of downplays it in the mix. The music is on the simpler side, and it is designed primarily for emotive response, and that is kind of it. It's not even primarily, it's designed exclusively for emotive response. Um, in a way to, one, get airtime, two, have people enjoy it when it's on the air, and three, bring people to the band. This is what I've talked about before. When music shifts a little bit from art to business, I don't want to say that they didn't put themselves into this, that this isn't an artistic endeavor at all. I'm sure there is quite a bit of passion still in this song, but it is designed with a secondary function, which is to act as a single, as marketing in a sense. And that might be why it's just not one of my favorite tracks from them. It wasn't designed for me to enjoy it, which is fine. I've talked about in the past, you gotta have singles. You gotta market yourself. If you don't do this, you end up sitting in obscurity, which is absolutely nothing. It's not something you can do if you're wanting to, have music as your job. That's just not how it works. You have to expose yourself. Well, that's a phrase, Brian. That's a phrase you said. You have to find musical exposure though. You need to market yourself, and that's what singles do. Um, anyways, I've got a little bit off topic here. I do want to talk a little bit about our final chorus, which I enjoyed. We had a little bit of variation in the lyrics. We had a little bit of variation in the music. We introduced a brand new concept, which was nice. We had a brand new rhythm introduced, a brand new riff. The lyrics got changed up to fit this new rhythm idea. And we finished out with a repeating phrase that I think really drove home the point of the song, which is we go to war, but doesn't make us feel safe. And finally, at the last phrase, transitions it to do you feel safe? Pointing the finger from the collective us to exclusively the listener. I thought that was a really neat shift there. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna wrap up this little bit here and say that this is not a bad song. It's a good song, I think, as far as being a single. I think this is definitely going to draw people to them if they've never heard them before. I don't know how much of their old stuff was on the radio, but I could see this 100% being on the radio if people even still listen to radio. I mean, XM's XM and Spotify and Pandora. That's the only thing I know that people still use. I don't know anybody still using FM radio. Um, but I guess even on XM, I mean, so the thing is with XM, with satellite radio, you can put up non-singles. You can have people play stuff that wouldn't play on FM radio. But I think you still want a song that's going to bring in a generic audience. And I think this song does a very good job of that. I think this appeals to a general rock audience. So it's not a bad song by any means, and it is a good song for what it does, but I just feel like it is a bit lacking in every element. And like I mentioned, the most powerful part, the one that actually got me in any way, that actually hooked me in some component, some capacity, was the verse, which is so short lived. Our bridge leans a little bit closer to the chorus as far as writing and impact and emotional atmosphere, which means that once we hit our second verse, the song doesn't really feel like it changes until we end the song, which kind of gives us like a 60% idea of just similarity, which goes heavily against that the entire beginning, which to me is the strength of the beginning is the contrast, the highs and the lows, the quiets to the bombastic moments, shifting from the primarily textual playing to the chord-based playing we get in the verse, which retains some of the energy of the more bombastic sections and some of the more soothing musical elements of the quieter sections. We go back into the verse and we get those peaks and valleys again, and then we find the middle point. But then we stay in the middle point till the end. We lose all elements of dynamic quality at that point, and we're not that far into the song yet. And to me, like I said, I was here for the beginning. I wasn't really here for the end. It got a bit samey, I suppose. I don't want to say boring for me. It's not like again, it's not poorly written. It's just I want to bring up one more thing before we dive into the lyrics. Headspace, expectations. These are very important when going into a song. What did I talk about before diving into this track? Oh, you know what? I think I didn't bring it up until after, but I was definitely thinking this. I know them for two things: making me cry and giving me a ton of energy. This song did neither. They don't just work within two types of music, so my expectations were wrong. Again, it would be like me booting up a black metal track and expecting an orchestra, right? Very strong classical writing with composition and canons and counterpoint. Um, and then getting black metal and be like, oh, this is garbage. It's not what I was expecting. Well, why was I expecting that, right? And so I do have valid reasons based on my experience with them to expect a very specific type of music here. And it put me in the wrong mindset, especially after the beginning delivered on that energy I was expecting from my experience with Salem, Burn the Witch. Everything after that beginning energy, though, didn't line up with what I was expecting from them, which is on me. I don't know a lot of people out there who will put the blame on themselves for not enjoying a track, but it's a topic that I think definitely needs to be spoken about and put out there. If you don't enjoy something, that is on you. Nobody ever has the right to say a song is garbage. No one has the right to say that a song is junk or unlistenable, because all they're saying is, I don't like to listen to this. That's all it means. And you have to take ownership of the beginning of that statement. I don't like this music. How many songs have you checked out and bounced off of you? You return to it 5 years later and you're like, dang, this is real good. Or the opposite, where you absolutely love something, 5 years later you're like, how did I ever listen to that cringe? Right? State of mind, expectations, personal preferences, and personal growth all come into play when it comes to music and all art, honestly. This listen was not hot for me. The song bounced off of me for a majority of it. That does not mean it's a bad song. That does not mean I won't enjoy it in the future. I don't think I will. I know what the song is now, and even coming in with the right expectations, it's just not what I look for in music or what I think I will look for in music in the future. But I don't know who I'm going to be in 15, 20, 30, 50, 170 years. Medicine better get better because I want to be alive for 200. And I think that's just a message that needs to be said. Maybe not necessarily to this community. I feel like I might be preaching to the choir here because a lot of you are really good with your comments. Um, I don't really have any negativity that I need to police in the comment section. No one ever says that this music sucks or why are you listening to this junk, stuff like that, or you gave all this praise to a song that, is absolute trash. We don't have much of that in the community. So, like I said, might be preaching to the choir here, but if even one person comes across this video and is like, oh, dude's got a point, I'm glad I put this section in, even though it kind of takes away from uh, the nothing more analysis. So let's dive into some lyrics here. Maybe I'll have my mind changed a little bit. Maybe not. I mean, that's how things work. Go to war, nothing more. Hey, that rhymes. All right. I don't know what you had in mind, but here we stand on opposing sides. Let's go to war. We arm ourselves with the wrongs we've done, name them off one by one. Let's go to war. Everything you say, everything you do, you push it in, and you cut me down. So that's our entire verse. There is no metaphor here. This is very straightforward. States that two people are on opposing sides, and they utilize the opposite person's wrongdoings as fuel and justification for the division. And then they attack. The chorus, screaming at the ones we love, like we forgot who we can trust, screaming at the top of our lungs on the grounds where we feel safe. Do you feel safe? So I like this. We've listened to 4 tracks this week. Oh, actually, 3 tracks this week about war. Yesterday we listened to a song kind of about a planet, kind of about a god of war. And here we're taking the metaphor of going to war into the interpersonal. I really like this. I was a little concerned that all 5 days this week was going to be about combat. On a more traditional viewpoint of it. Really happy to get some classical in this week. That was a nice surprise. But here, once again, is a nice surprise as well. This is war related. We're still talking about combat in a sense. Antagonism? That's the word I want. We're talking about antagonism. We're talking about 2 sides. We're talking about conflict, but not combat. And it wraps it around to attacking those who we're supposed to trust and love, which I think is just a very important topic to speak about, is domestic violence. Very interesting. He says we scream at those that we love, almost like we forgot who they are, who we can trust, on the grounds where we feel safe. So inside our home, which is supposed to be our safety, right? A lot of people feel safe within their homes. When there is any danger, whether it's Mother Nature or people out on the loose, maybe there's a murderer. Cops are trying to catch him. What's the first thing they say? Get in your house, close the door, right? The house is a safe haven. This is where people are supposed to feel safe. Especially when we talk about kids, right? They have so much to deal with. The stresses of school and possibly even maybe bullying or anything like that going on at school, and they're supposed to be able to come home and feel safe, and there's houses where that's not true. And I love this line. We are on the ground where we feel safe, but do we feel safe? So good. Hush, my baby, make no sound. Maybe we can wait each other out. It's a cold war, so let's go to war. With every settled score, I thought that fighting with meant fighting for, but you turn it around. Again, okay, so I've talked before about this dude's lyrics. Yeah, this is one of, I mean, the grounds where you feel safe is a good line. Here, though, is a great line. I thought that fighting with meant fighting for, right? So we're still talking about fighting with loved ones, right? But this person had the misinterpretation that fighting with this person meant also fighting for this person, right? We are yelling at each other, but I feel justified because I'm trying to keep us together. The oxymoron there, of course, but the idea that that ideology can still feel justified. I am yelling at you so that we don't separate because I strongly feel that my side in this opposition is the right one to keep us moving forward. Um, such a good line. It says, but you turn it around, which is once again bringing the opposition, the antagonism into this. It's not that I'm wrong. You've just turned my words around on me. You've twisted them. You've distorted them. You've changed what I've said, even though it's the exact same words. A lot of this comes from that mentality that this person is doing this, participating in this screaming match, or even maybe more. We could be talking about physical violence with this person they're supposed to, that they supposedly want in their life. But this fight is for the greater good of the relationship. And when you put it that way, it sounds asinine. But I think it is easier than a lot of people think to slip into that mindset. We go back to the chorus. All right, we go to the bridge. Do we censor? Do we flow? Are we drunk on the chemicals? Every feeling on my bone tells me to lash out and tell you to go. You've got my heart and I've got your soul, but are we better off alone? With every battle we lose a little more. Remember everything that we die for. You're everything that I would die for. So this is interesting. This almost feels like self-reflection. It says when I'm in that state of mind, that arguing, and I'm on that intense feeling. Are we drunk on those chemicals? Is the brain keeping me in this state, or do I actively want to stay in this argument? Every feeling in my bone tells me to lash out. Just everything says I should do it. But then he thinks, you've got my heart, I've got your soul. We have pieces of each other, and I don't think we'd be better off alone. But I know that every time we fight, we lose a little more. So if we would die for each other, why are we doing this? I like that. Kind of turns it around a little bit. And converts it from a song that's just about domestic violence into a song that makes a statement on it. If you find yourself constantly yelling at the people that you supposedly want to be around, why? Think about it. Take yourself out of the moment and actually think about the purpose of it all. Because it's not helping anyone. I like that. It goes along really well with the track we listened to on this week's live stream from Kendrick Lamar. I don't remember what the song was. Let's see if I can. Oh, We Cry Together, featuring Taylor Page, which was sort of this same topic, but instead of singing about it, the song was actually an argument between two people who live together. Very interesting way about composing it. But it's very appropriate, I think, to have both of these in the same week and kind of have the ideas kind of bounce around in my head. I can kind of, get a lot of perspective on this. So those are my thoughts on Nothing More's Go to War. This is where you guys come in. I know I was a bit harsh on this, and I really wish I had more time to dig into the music of it, but you know, I typically get a lot of praise from my musical memory and being able to pick things up and, uh, you know, 20, 30 minutes into a video, still recall a specific lick from the song, but I really could not remember a thing. It's just such a forgettable track, at least for me. Again, I want to put that out there. These are just my thoughts on this track. I want to hear yours. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this one. If you enjoyed it, if you didn't enjoy it, anything you'd like to correct me on or add on to anything that I said, I'm down for it. I read every comment, good or bad, and I engage anytime I think I can add on to a conversation. So let me know. Above the comment section is a description box, and there's a link for a Linktree, which takes you to this menu right here. It has links for everything related to the channel. You can support the channel in a variety of ways, such as Patreon and merch. You can join any of the communities that surround the channel, such as my Twitter account or the Discord server. There's so many other links in there as well. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. We have two creator requests today since I want to stay on track. Otherwise, be back tomorrow with an album review. Sunday, we have the Patreon live stream. I'll try to get that out Sunday night or Monday morning for everyone else to view after the stream itself. And then Monday, we'll begin next week's theme. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.